Hey everyone, Cahlen here, and I'd like to give a kind of a post-mortem on my winter living outside. So I've been living outside since June of last year, but I also committed to living outside the entire winter. That was my goal for the winter. And I succeeded at that. Winter's over. I slept outside the entire time. I don't think I even used a toilet once, right? You know, like one of those things in your houses that you're all very used to. So, anyways, I wanted to kind of give the rundown on my thoughts about how that went, how that process was for me. So, normally I'm a person who has a hard time sleeping outside when it's cold. And so I was a little bit worried about going into the winter. And, and also other people were even more worried about me, right? So at a certain point, I was planning to live in my tarp shelter or maybe in my smaller hot tent. And people were saying, you need to get something more substantial. So I got something more substantial. I got a more sturdier, heavier, larger hot tent. And I started the winter basically living in that thing. And I had a little titanium wood stove, which is 4 pounds. It folds up and fits in a backpack. And I basically used that for, I don't know, maybe like a first third of winter. And it was nice to be able to sit inside during the day and be warm, but also it was a lot of work. I don't really like processing wood. And so I basically, at a certain point, I'm just like, well, I don't really need this. It's just for comfort, but also I'm giving up comfort to process all this wood. And so I decided I'm going to try and do it without the fire. And so I went for a few weeks like that, and it was totally easy. And basically, I'll just say the reason I was able to succeed is because I have the gear to do it. And you can learn about the gear that I use by going to cahlen.org/gear, right? Now it'll show my current loadout, so if it's not winter, it won't show that. Maybe I should have a way of showing people my winter gear even if I'm not using it. So I'll have to think about how to do that. But anyways, basically you want to have the layering system going on. So you're going to see the clothes. There's the military sleep system, which has 2 layers of warming insulation and also a waterproofing layer. And then the clothes has basically, it's a 7-layer system, but you only really need to use layers 1, 2, 3, and right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 basically. And if you have all that stuff, and at night, even if it gets really, really cold, like negative 10 or 20, right? I didn't go down to 20 this year, but I did get close to negative 10 Fahrenheit. And that, anyways, it held up in that. So if you have that stuff, really you don't need to worry about it. So anyways, so I had that stuff. I was using that when I transitioned off of the fire. And then I'm like, I don't even need this tent, right? I don't need all this space. I don't need, all I need the cover for is to keep rain off me, and it doesn't rain very often. So I moved down to just sleeping underneath the 10 by 10 tarp with my wizard staff as the pole structure in the middle. And I did that. That's where I went through the coldest night. I think that's where we got close to negative 10 Fahrenheit. And it wasn't any different than any other nights, really. And even when I had the fireplace, you don't keep the fireplace going all night with a small little stove like that. And so you still have to deal with the coldest of the cold, which comes in very early morning, and the fire won't be going, and so you have to have all the equipment to deal with that anyways. And so it's just like, well, if I have what I need to deal with that without the fire, why do I need fire? And then also all I need is a rain cover. And so then even then I said, okay, I don't even need this tarp, right? And so I started sleeping underneath my poncho, which is basically just a big rain jacket, right? So this is my summer sleeping bag, which is also sort of like a poncho, but it's not waterproof. And then I have a poncho which goes over the top of it, and that poncho served as my shelter for basically, I'd say the last third of winter basically. And we went through several snows with me using that thing. So, and I've got a couple videos on that. If you go back and search poncho on my website, then you'll find those. So anyways, it turned out to be a lot easier. I think it's partly, well, largely because I had the gear, but also I think as you live outside, your body gets used to it, and you can deal with cold, right? So anyways, it can get colder than it got this year here, actually probably by 20-30 degrees. So I think I have had all the gear to deal with that. but I don't want to carry all that gear with me when I go nomadically traveling, and so I will probably need to keep myself in locations where it doesn't get below 0 even in the winter, right? Or very, very rarely, or almost never. And of course, I need to have a backup plan if it ever did, which could just mean starting a fire in a good place. So anyways, other than that, so winter, it's funny because a lot of people are kind of like surprised, or I guess, and you might say impressed. They're just like, wow, that's a pretty serious accomplishment to live outside all winter. And after going through it, it doesn't seem like that big a deal. I mean, basically, you need to have the clothes. That's it, have the clothes and eat enough food and have a way to keep yourself occupied while you're sitting around hibernating, right? It's not really a big deal. Keep yourself dry, keep yourself warm, keep yourself fed, and keep yourself occupied. And really, most of us are good at doing most of those things, except for the staying warm outside without technology. But it's not hard. Just buy the right clothes and you're set. So you don't have to do anything else. All right, so that's the postmortem. At this point, I'm going to go work at a friend's house today, and I'm going to be there for about 3 weeks or so. And he's paying me in Monero, which is super sweet. And then I'm going to come back to the farm and help with spring planting and stuff. So basically, that's the plan. I don't know how much videos I'll be making while I'm working. We'll see. Maybe 1 or 2 a day, but it might only be 1 or 2 a week. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I think that's it. That's all I got to say about winter. Definitely wouldn't want to do it up in the northern areas like northern Central America or Canada. So location also is very important. So anyways, I'll see you guys later.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider sharing it. If you'd like to help me out in a more substantial way, you can learn how to do so at cahlen.org/gift. And if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with me, whether publicly or privately, you can learn how to do so at cahlen.org/one-on-one. Thanks again for watching.